this attack brought us closer to global nuclear war. This was an attack on one part of Russia's strategic fleet. And it's extraordinarily dangerous. It may be viewed as a video game, watching planes destroyed, but we took a step closer to nuclear war today. Zelensky, this group in Ukraine, I wouldn't trust for a moment, not for a moment with our lives. But having said that, either the U.S. Government knew and assisted, which is horrific to think about, or it didn't know, which is also horrific to think about, because then we're just bobbing in the waves as we step closer to Armageddon.
You know, when someone like Jeffrey Sachs says we're inching toward Armageddon, it's not hyperbole. This isn't some fringe opinion. It's a deeply informed warning. What worries me most is how numb we've become to these escalations. We're talking about strikes near Russia's nuclear fleet, yet so many treat it like just another headline. At this point, it's not about left or right, it's about basic survival. We need leadership grounded in restraint, not provocation.
This war needs to stop. What is happening now, attacking part of the nuclear triad, attacking deep in Russia, is a dramatic escalation that brings us closer to Armageddon. And people may say, well, they have the right to defend themselves, but you and I have the right to live, as well as other people listening right now. I find our political leaders absolutely incapable of the most basic common sense and drawing lines right now. And if President Trump didn't know, that is beforehand, I mean, this is a grave failure of American intelligence or intelligence briefings.
That line really lands. It's not just about poor decisions, it's about systemic dysfunction at the highest levels. If our intelligence failed to anticipate or prevent this, the consequences could be catastrophic. We cannot keep reacting to crises we helped escalate.
We need to understand this. MI6's role in everything going on in Ukraine is dreadful and deadly. I can't stand to watch Starmer one moment. Probably the greatest warmonger on the planet, actually. And Zelensky is killing his people wantonly because there's no serious discussion of how to make peace.
That's the tragedy here. Young Ukrainians, Russians, civilians on all sides, paying the price because no one is willing to sit down and make peace. It takes real courage to end a war, and right now, that courage seems to be in short supply.
Practically speaking, what needs to happen, practically, is that this war needs to stop before we all get blown up. And the way that it has to stop, clearly, is the President of the United States simply and consistently stating American policy, not changing it from morning till afternoon to evening. And American policy should be that this war needs to stop immediately, permanently, on the basis of Ukraine's neutrality, and that the fighting needs to stop and the intelligence agencies need to stand down and stop their provocations.
You know, Sachs is right to bring up the intelligence services. War today isn't just fought with missiles, it's fought with narratives, with covert ops, with provocations we often never hear about until it's too late. That has to stop.
Now, I assume that the president has command of our intelligence services. I know that he can tell the British. I can't even start about the British, by the way, but he's got to tell the British, stop dreaming of their ancient goddamn empire, honestly. It's enough. Stop all of the provocations to global destruction. Today, by the way, Starmer unveils the new defense mandate saying we're endangered by Russia. Well, yes, Britain has been after Russia since 1840. This is nothing new, and it's reckless, and it needs to stop.
Britain's historical antagonism toward Russia goes back centuries, but that's no excuse to keep poking the bear today. We're playing 19th century games in a 21st century nuclear world. That's not strategy, it's insanity.
And incidentally, and I think it's also quite interesting, uh, he announced that Britain needs a new war doctrine because of all that we're learning in Ukraine. This is part of what's happening in Ukraine. They're playing with their toys. They're playing with their battlefield weapons. They're learning how to use drones. This is all one jolly experience. They're not sitting down to discuss the end of the war, to take seriously the real security concerns of Ukraine and of Russia, and how this war really arose and how it needs really to stop.
How close are we to the use of nuclear weapons?
Well, according to the Doomsday Clock, the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, that is an expert group that reviews that very question round the year, every year since 1947, we are 89 seconds to Armageddon, meaning in this graphic terms of the Doomsday Clock that we are closer to annihilation than ever before in the history of the planet and ever since the start of the atomic age. And that means we are closer to nuclear Armageddon than during the entire Cold War period. And I think that that is a completely accurate assessment.
Closer to nuclear Armageddon than even during the Cold War, that's chilling. And yet most people don't even know what the doomsday clock is, let alone take it seriously. That disconnect between reality and public awareness is part of the danger.
Well, what?
I honestly believe that that the world has uh, become benumbed by the video games, by the uh, seeing war every day. That's just a video, whether it's Gaza being blown up or aircraft that carry nuclear weapons being blown up deep inside of Russia. That's like a video game that you would see anyone playing on a seat next to you in the train or on an airplane or on the subway. Uh, People are inured to this right now, and yet we have a war raging, which is obviously a war of the US and Britain and France and Germany against Russia. And that is roughly 6,000 nuclear weapons on each side. And it's a hot war raging until today.
A hot war with 6,000 nuclear weapons on each side, that's not a regional conflict. That's a global crisis in slow motion. And we're acting like it's just another political chessboard. It's maddening.
And I think Donald Trump wants to stop this, but it takes skill and determination to stop this.
Exactly. Peace isn't just a slogan, it's hard work. It takes guts to say no to escalation, to rein in your own side. Let's hope someone in leadership still remembers how to do that.
The only negotiations that count, and they're not really taking place, are between the United States and Russia. And the United States and Russia should settle the issues seriously with a treaty, with a security agreement, that NATO will never enlarge, that the United States recognizes Crimea as part of Russia, because part of this whole plan, dating back to 1853, was to grab Crimea. This has been acknowledged again, time and again, what this has been about. So we need an arrangement between the United States and Russia as the two nuclear superpowers, that the United States is done fighting this war, done supplying the armaments, done with the idea of NATO enlargement, not as a game, as a concession, but as our survival need, because the whole idea of the United States moving its military into Ukraine was mind boggling from the start. As I always like to remind people, it would be like Russia moving its military into Mexico or into Canada. How well would it play in the United States? Not very well. It would lead us to war.
Imagine if Russia moved troops into Mexico or Canada, we'd lose our minds. So why do we think putting NATO on Russia's doorstep wouldn't trigger a crisis? Empathy isn't weakness, it's strategy.
And so if we just understand the root causes of this, we have to understand Ukraine can say whatever it wants until the United States makes clear where the US stands, which is that it is not at the behest of an extremist clique ruling by military rule that the US installed by a coup in 2014.
Right.
Come on. Do we have some survival instinct in the United States?
That's the haunting question, isn't it? Do we still have the instinct to pull back before the cliff edge? Because history is full of great powers that believe they were invincible until they weren't. We have the power to change course, but we need leadership that values peace more than power, and visionaries willing to tell the hard truths, not just play to the crowd.